All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Years have come and gone since that star first led them on. From Bethlehem to hearts of men, my story's told again and again. The candles glow, the choirs sing, and still they search for what I bring. Through the joy and through the snow, I watch the love still ebb and flow. If Jesus could see Christmas today, he'd smile at the children as they pray. He'd see the giving, the songs, the light, and whisper softly, all is right. Though the world may
And welcome back to the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're still coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media platforms, MSN Messenger and the rest of them, it's X Zone Radio TV. And we are listening to us on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, Tuber, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM here in St. Catharines, and they stream us at classic1220.ca. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is Michael Cremo, and we're going to dive deep into one of the most controversial questions in science. How old is humanity? Really? Our guest, Michael Cremo, is the world-renowned researcher and author whose explosive book, Hidden Archaeology, challenges the very foundations of anthropology, archaeology, and human history. For decades, Michael has uncovered suppressed discoveries, anomalous artifacts, and scientific contradictions that to a point are shocking possibility that humans may have existed here on Earth far earlier than mainstream science dares to admit. Prepare yourself for a provocative journey into buried evidence, lost civilizations, global cover-ups, and the possibility that human history is far stranger and far older than any textbook would even let you know, or they'd even tell you. This is the X Zone, where we confront the mysteries the world tries to ignore. And joining me now is Michael Cremo. And Michael, welcome back to the X Zone. It's a pleasure seeing you again, sir.
Great to be back. Great to be back with you and all your viewers and listeners.
Michael, what first pushed you to challenge mainstream archaeology's version of human history?
Well, a couple of things. One was my upbringing. My father was a military intelligence officer, and that meant a lot of things for me as I was growing up, including the awareness that there are things that go on in the world that most people simply aren't aware of. And as part of growing up, I also lived in a lot of different places and got exposed to different cultures and worldviews. Mm-hmm. And one that I found the most fascinating was the Vedic worldview of ancient India. There's a group of Sanskrit writings called the Puranas, and they're the Vedic histories, and they tell of human populations on this planet existing millions of years ago in the course of vast periods of cyclical time. So that's what kind of got me into this.
All right, for listeners who may not have heard about Michael Cremo, read about Michael Cremo, or listened or heard him on the many broadcasts that you've done over the years, Michael. What is forbidden archaeology really revealing to this world that we live in now?
Well, what it's revealing is that if you look in the current textbooks of archaeology, you won't find any uh, evidence for extreme human antiquity. But I decided to go beyond the textbooks, go back to the original scientific reports that are archived in various places around the world. And when I started digging through those, I noticed there were many professional scientists, archaeologists, geologists, other scientists who dig into the earth, and they were finding reports of human bones, human artifacts, human footprints going back many millions of years. So uh, I had to wonder why, if these things are in the original scientific reports, they don't make their way into the secondary scientific literature, textbooks,
Mhm.
survey studies, things like that. And I determined it was because of a process of knowledge filtration that operates in the world of science. So some evidence gets forbidden. The evidence that goes along with the current theories, you'll read about, hear about. The evidence that is just as good, just as credible, but which happens to contradict the now dominant theory of human evolution is ignored, forgotten, put aside, explained away in a very flimsy fashion. And that's why I call it forbidden archaeology. I'm looking at the anomalies.
You're talking about the real history, not the history that the scientists and the academia want us to know about.
Yes. And it's not in all cases some satanic
Hmm.
conspiracy. It's many of, say, in museums, these artifacts and bones may be in a museum and they're not shown to the public. And the scientists who are responsible for that, they don't think they're hiding true evidence, which, if people knew about, would cause them to disbelieve in their theories. It operates in a more subtle way. They'll look at this artifact. The discoverer gave it an age of, say, 7 million years,
Hmm.
and they think that can't be possible. I'm sure my colleague down the hall could tell me exactly what went wrong in this case, but they just feel they're being responsible custodians of the evidence. And uh, but the effect of that, however, is that it's just the same as if it were a deliberate conspiracy.
Michael, what
We
is?
don't get a
I'm
set
I'm
of facts.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there. What were you saying, my friend?
No, no, no. I should be the one apologizing.
Never apologize, Michael. Never. What is the single most shocking artifact that you've encountered that contradicts the accepted human timeline?
Well, one that I talk about in my new book, Extreme Human Antiquity, is a dinosaur bone that was found in England
Hmm.
in the 19th century. And the scientists who found it, he didn't like the idea that some people were promoting at the time, that human beings existed many millions of years ago. So dinosaurs, they had to have existed more than 65 million years ago. And if you look at the ages
Hmm.
of the Cretaceous, the Jurassic, and the Triassic, yeah, the geological periods in which the dinosaurs thrived, they go back a couple 100 million years. So he found a dinosaur bone with butchering marks on it, like the same kind of marks that would be found on a say if you found a mastodon that had been hunted by early Homo sapiens or the Neanderthals, and the animal had been killed and then butchered, you'd find certain types of marks on its bones. So, cut marks.
Right.
So they found on this dinosaur bone the same kinds of cut marks. So the scientist said, so, and this is from the Jurassic period, and he just expected that. Well, then it can't be human. It can't be the result of human activity. It must be something else.
So, Michael, why do you believe that these anomalies are ignored or dismissed so aggressively by academia?
Well, I think that has to do with events that have taken place in the world of science and academia over the past 400 or 500 years. If you go back 400 or 500 years in Europe and look at the scientific associations and what they were studying and what they were investigating things that are now considered totally forbidden, out of bounds, out of the box, like astrology and uh, things like that, paranormal phenomenon, different types of energies beyond ordinary matter, all kinds of subtle influences and things like that. And over the centuries, science has restricted itself more and more to focus on ordinary matter and how it operates. So they've tried to explain everything in terms of combinations of material elements, molecules that somehow or other spontaneously form some first living organism, which then begins to clump together with other single-celled organisms, and you get plants and fish developing. And then some of them go on the land and turn into dinosaurs or amphibians or insects or human beings. And the reason they resist these changes is because they point out the need for new theories. And I think these new theories are going to have to involve consciousness. Even Charles Darwin, he recognized that consciousness was a problem for a materialist evolutionary explanation of life, especially human life. So I think that's the reason why there's so much resistance, because once consciousness becomes recognized as something completely separate from matter, then the whole foundation of modern material science begins to crumble.
Michael, stand by. We've got to take our break. And Exonation, Michael Cremo is our very special guest. Visit his website, www.mcremo, that's MCREMO.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Christmas today, he'd smile at the children as they pray. She left the port of Superior Town, her hold weighed down with steel. A proud old ship on the inland sea, with a heart of iron and keel. The winds, they whispered through November's chill as the skies began to moan, and the crew looked north through the gathering storm, far from their hearth and home. Oh, the lake was cold and the night was black, and the wind tore through her sails.
Michael Cremo is my special guest of this hour, Exonation. His website is www.mcremo.com. That's MCREMO.com. Michael, how different would history be if there was no such thing as hidden archaeology or forbidden archaeology? And how would it change, or how would it have changed the evolution of humanity and present day social standings?
Yeah. Well, a very important point is our sense of identity.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the basis of how we identify ourselves that shapes our values, goals, and objectives in life. So, in this cosmos that we exist in now, it's not the complete reality. In one sense, we're all extraterrestrials in the sense as beings of pure consciousness. We don't originate from matter. We originate from what I call the level of pure consciousness. And if the ruling principle of that realm of pure consciousness is loving, harmonious cooperation, freely chosen by each individual conscious self. So if that were the identity that people were being instructed about, we would have an entirely different set of political institutions, economic institutions, financial institutions, even religious institutions, because we would not be dividing ourselves up into competing, conflicting groups based on superficial differences in the material bodily vehicles that we as conscious selves are now inhabiting. We would understand I'm a being of pure consciousness, you're a being of pure consciousness, we're all beings of pure consciousness. And we can satisfy our material needs in the most natural, fair, efficient way possible, and put most of our energy into developing the resource of consciousness. So I think that's the kind of difference, what difference it makes between what sort of sense of identity we're being given by the elites in the society in which we live. Today, they're presenting the idea that, well, you're a machine made of molecules in competition with other such machines made of molecules for survival.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a whole set of political, social, financial institutions that are founded on that basis. So I think you would find a less violent world, a world that was living more sustainably, not exhausting all its resources and making a mess of things. So I think it would be quite different depending upon what sort of sense of identity is being communicated to us by these elites in our society, our scientists, our philosophers, and so on.
The advanced civilizations that you were talking about before, that long before recorded history, were they found all over the world, or are they found just in specific areas?
There's been evidence for such things actually all over the world. You can look at Egypt. They did some amazing things in Egypt that really can't be duplicated today. Like they made these stone jars
Hmm.
or vases that are really very, very thin. Somehow or other they had managed uh, a technology that they could produce such things. I first heard about them from John Anthony West a long time ago, but recently I visited a man named Matt Viall. He had a podcast in Sarasota, Florida, and he has a huge collection of these things. So I got to see and touch them. Uh, an opportunity I don't get that often. So, yeah, if you look at all parts of the world, there are signs of higher cultures more technologically advanced than perhaps we are.
What are some of the strangest, I mean, out of place artifacts that challenge conventional science?
Well, it's, I mean, one that's really fascinated a lot of people was from the book Forbidden Archaeology. There's a case there. It's mentioned in an appendix in the book because it wasn't as well scientifically documented as other discoveries that we included in that work. And they're round metallic objects. Uh, they turned out to be made of hematite. The interesting feature of them is the parallel grooves that go around the equator
Hmm.
of each object, and they they uh, they look like they were manufactured somehow. They don't seem to be a natural product, and they're found in layers of sediments over 2 billion years old. So
Unreal.
many people have been very fascinated by that particular discovery.
Michael, how do you respond to critics who say that your research is too controversial or just impossible?
Um, yeah, there are interesting reactions from the scientific world, not all negative. There are many in the academic community who are willing to listen to alternatives and consider them, as possible candidates for uh, real knowledge.
Hmm.
There are others who are vehemently opposed to what I do, not for purely academic or scientific reasons, but more or less because of their prior commitment to atheism or materialism. And uh, I mean, I'm not opposed to somebody being an atheist or a materialist,
Hmm.
just as long as they don't attempt to force their ideas on anyone. Uh, like even myself, that's all that I ask for is just the opportunity to present my ideas. If you like them, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm not going to try to get the government to make you think like me. So, uh, so some reactions are um, of a more personal nature. I mean, I can debate with people. I can, shout as loud as they can, but I don't like that type of discourse. I think people should be able to sit down and discuss things, you know, persuade each other of their different points of view.
Can the cyclical time concept found in the ancient texts explain the repeated rise and fall of civilizations?
Well, it's certainly consistent with it.
Hmm.
And there are many of the ancient cultures that accepted this cyclical concept of time, that There's a series of ages. The Greeks and the Romans
Right.
spoke of a golden age, a silver age, an iron age, a copper age, and an iron age. The ancient Egyptians also had a feature of time like that. One of the Greek uh, philosophers came to Egypt and he was speaking with Egyptian priests in Thebes, I think it was. And in the conversation, the Egyptian priest asked, well, what is the history of the human species according to your point of view? And the Greek philosopher explained, well, there was a big devastation and then, flood, and then human beings appeared, first man and woman, and then they populated the earth. And the Egyptian said, well, you've just got the last part of the cycle. Actually, there have been many devastations, and your civilization has gone through many of them. And we have the records here, but you've forgotten it. So you do get that idea of cyclical time, which may explain how civilizations have come and gone over so many thousands and millions of years.
Michael, you and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Michael, his books, it's a great website, www.mcremo.com. That's MCREMO.com. And Michael and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, my very special guest, Michael Cremo. And you're listening to us on the Talkstar Radio Network and watching us on the Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, Tuber, and of course on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, right here in St. Catharines, Ontario. And you could listen to us streamed with the good people of CFAJ's compliments at www.classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
She left the port of Superior Town, her hold weighed down with steel. A proud old ship on the inland sea, with a heart of iron and keel. The winds
In the twilight's hush, where shadows whisper low, a silver glimmer streaks across the sky aglow, with a haunting melody. The air begins to thrum, an echo of the wonders that from beyond have come. Celestial encounter as the stars align, a tapestry of wonders woven through space and time from the void of darkness.
Michael Cremo's my guest, www.michaelcremo.com. Michael, do we have any idea what happened to these ancient advanced civilizations and why they didn't survive, but they perished?
Well, it's interesting. I think some of them didn't perish. They've persisted, maybe in a changed form. It's one of the reasons I was attracted to the Vedic worldview of ancient India, because I could see, if I wanted to go to Egypt and talk to some Egyptian, authentic Egyptian priest or holy man at a pyramid or something. It's just not there. It's taken over by another culture. And if I look at many of the ancient civilizations, I see they're more or less in the same position, that a lot of the values and customs and techniques that they had mastered had disappeared and been replaced by other cultures. But I mean, there are places I've been in India where, like Benares or Varanasi, it's now called, that appear to be doing things just as they did a long time ago. So, but I think you're right that there is in this world a destructive element to the time factor. Time isn't just an artificial way of measuring durations of different intervals. Time is actually a force. Robert Oppenheimer, who was the physicist who supervised the American program to build an atomic bomb in World War II, during the first test of the atomic bomb at Alamogordo in New Mexico in 1945, when he saw the flash, he quoted a Sanskrit text from the Bhagavad Gita about time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So time does have this destructive factor to it. It's a big mystery in the world of science why there's this directionality of time. Because according to the laws of physics, everything is reversible. If you have a glass of water with an ice cube in it, at room temperature, the ice cube will melt. You never see at room temperature the water forming an ice cube. But, so that directionality of time and its increasing entropy, which means introducing disorder where there was previously order, in other words, the destructive force, that is one of the big unsolved mysteries of science.
Michael, what do you think the most frustrating challenge you face when, presenting evidence of forbidden archaeology and forbidden evidence and what seems to be a conspiracy to suppress the truth when it comes to archaeology?
One of the things that I haven't liked very much is that the critics of my work and those of others usually express their objections in terms of giving a laundry list of possibilities how a discovery could be wrong. Once I was giving a lecture in Copenhagen in Europe, in Denmark, and it was a big audience, and some scientists, archaeologists came. I went through many of the cases from forbidden archaeology. And at the end, one of the scientists, archaeologists said, well, very interesting, Mr. Cremo, but aren't you aware that that object could have fallen into that ancient layer of rock by slipping down a fissure, or there could have been some earth movement, or the original discoverer was mistaken, or a victim of a hoax, or the whole list. You can give a list of possibilities how something could be wrong. So what I told him was, well, if you're going to proceed scientifically, what you would have to do is show that in this particular case, there is, for example, a fissure from some higher, more recent level that goes down to that very ancient level. And at the top, at where the fissure starts, there are in fact some stone tools or weapons that look like the ones that were found in the deeper layer. And yeah, then it might be a reasonable objection. But just to give a list, another time I was speaking at the Russian Academy of Sciences, this was a few years ago, when things were a little more compatible between our countries. But my audience was anthropologists and archaeologists at the Russian Academy of Sciences in Moscow. And after my talk, one of the archaeologists came up and said, I haven't read your book, but I'm sure that everything in it is either a mistake, an illusion, or a hoax. So
Wow.
that is one of my frustrations, is that when people try to dismiss credible evidence by just inventing possible ways in which it could be wrong without actually showing that in that particular case, there's evidence for why it went wrong.
Have you ever encountered an artifact that is so extraordinary that you yourself, Michael, have questioned it?
Yes, I mean I'm prepared to if anybody can show me why a particular discovery is wrong, I'm prepared to accept that. I wouldn't use it anymore in my discussions with things, with scientists. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes something can be so challenging, like those metallic spheres from South Africa. You know, they're kind of challenging, you know.
What do you believe is the biggest mistake mainstream archaeology continues to make?
Inviting me to speak at their conferences.
I think that's the
No.
smartest thing they've done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I find there are a lot of positive developments in archaeology that I've seen over the years. One thing I noticed over the past 10 years or so is that at mainstream archaeology conferences, there are sessions on extraterrestrial archaeology, which is pretty amazing. You know, 10 years ago it would have seemed out of the question. You know, it's like, how could anybody take seriously an idea like that? Of course, one thing they're talking about is what are we going to do when we go to the moon and archaeologists collect artifacts that we've sent up there in the different Apollo missions and missions to the moon by different countries. Who's going to own that stuff? Whose museum is it going to go into? But they're also talking about what if we find things on the moon or in orbit around the Earth that we didn't send there. And, you know, I think this is the importance of the work by Avi Loeb and other scientists who are trying to educate us about objects that come into our solar system from outside of it, from some other star system. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that I like to see.
You know, we've had discussions about the discovery of 3I Atlas. What is your take on it?
That it's again, it's one of these cases where I'm willing to consider, okay, it's coming from outside our solar system. It appears to be traveling in a certain way that would be consistent with it being some kind of probe that is investigating our region of the cosmos. So, uh, so I'm willing to consider that. You know, I was more familiar with the Avilov's case, but this new one is in the same category, I believe.
All right, stand by, Michael. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. In Duxo Nation, if you'd like to find out more about Michael Cremo, his work, his books, visit his website, www.mcremo.com. And once again, if you'd like to get your copy of Merry Christmas 2025, or if you'd like to listen to the tracks first, well, we have sampler tracks of the entire album available for you to listen with our compliments by going to REL-MAR. No, wait a second. I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong card. It's REL-MAR.hearnow.com. We'll both be back as the X Zone continues and wraps up this hour on the other side of this short break. So whatever you do, X Zone Nation, please don't go away.
Snowflakes falling on Ontario Street. Downtown lights are shining soft and sweet. Voices laughing, sleigh bells near. It's the magic time of year. From Port Dalhousie to Merritton's Glow, families gather where from the mountains out in BC to the shores of Newfoundland, lights are glowing through the snow, hearts are open hand in hand. From the prairie's silent winter fields to the streets of Montreal, the spirit of the season brings its magic to us all. It's that special time of year across Canada, when the world feels warm and near. Families gather, voices sing of love and hope and cheer. From the northern lights to city streets, the message rings.
Michael Cremo is our special guest, www.mcremo.com. What would happen, in your opinion, Michael, if, or let's say, to science, religion, and politics, if your findings were accepted as the truth? I'm not saying they're not the truth. I mean, if science, religion, and politics accepted them as the truth.
I think we would see a different kind of world than the one that we have right at the present moment, because the whole apparatus of modern human civilization is based on some very strong commitment to what's called physicalism or materialism, in other words. They would say, well, consciousness is just produced by bioelectrical activity in the brain. And at the time of death, when consciousness ceases to operate and all the chemicals become disorganized, that's it. You know, you've had your run. So that type of identity, which is being promoted every day in countries all around the world through the educational systems and scientific institutions, if that world is, if that sense of self is dominant, then we get the kind of culture that we see with violence on every level of human society, destruction of the environment, uh, all kinds of conflicts that are completely unnecessary. So, and people have to work very hard at jobs that are kind of soul killing and destructive in the environment. I think there's another way to live, but that's going to require a different concept of the self. So, I mean, this kind of takes us a long ways from the stones and bones of forbidden archaeology in my new book, Extreme Human Antiquity. But that's where it all leads. Uh, from the stones and bones that contradict the current theories to the call for a new theory, which I believe will have to involve consciousness. That's something fundamental in the cosmos.
Right. Now, what cases from your own archives, Michael, do you believe are absolutely irrefutable?
Well, like one of them, I mean, this may seem like a very minor point, but it's significant. In 1916, archaeologists published a report about the OH-86 specimen that was found at Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. It's like a fifth proximal manual phalanx. That means it's this bone. You know, your fingers are made of three bones. The one closest to the hand is called the proximal one, and this is the small one. So left fifth proximal phalanx. Minor discovery. It was found in layers of rock 1,800,000 years old. Now, the scientists who discovered it, they carefully measured the bone. I mean, not just one measurement, it's like 2 millimeters or whatever, but very detailed measurements, dozens of measurements that were fed into a computer, and by some program they have, they were able to compare the shape of the bone to the same bone in different species of apes and monkeys, you know, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and they were also able to compare it to the same finger bone from other hominids, other types of ape men. And they compared it to anatomically modern human finger bones, the same one. So the results were that it fit squarely in the modern human group. But, you know, they said in their report, which was published in Nature Communications, that this specimen, this OH-86 finger bone, most closely resembles that of Homo sapiens, but we can't call it Homo sapiens because of its geological age, 1,800,000 years. So I just find this to be, you know, it's a relatively minor case, but it makes a big point that scientists tend to find what they're looking for, and it's hard for them to conceive of something that is so far outside the box in terms of their current ideas. So this is the type of thing that happens. Either a discovery is dismissed on various grounds, or it's interpreted in such a way that it fits the current theory. And I think in this case, that's what's happened. They decided, well, it can't, it's Homo sapiens, but we can't call it Homo sapiens. Who was around 1,800,000 years ago? Some variety of Australopithecus, something like that.
But in that case, how come there weren't other bones that were found? How come just one bone?
that was that particular case. There are other cases that of discoveries of anatomically modern human bones where you have fairly complete skeletons, roughly the same age. For example, at Castanolo,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Italy, in the foothills of the Alps. Uh, an Italian geologist named Giuseppe Ragazzoni found human skeletal remains in Pliocene formation, which is a little older than the 1.8 million years of the Ulduvai Gorge find, but uh, it presents more what you're looking for, not just a fragment of bone, but a complete or more or less complete skeletal remains. And footprints of the anatomically modern human type have been found in Africa, not far from Olduvai Gorge. Uh, so that, like the Lake Tolly footprints that were discovered in 1979, the tracks of three individuals, apparently a child and two adults, were walking across some volcanic ash and their footprints got preserved. And when she first looked at them, the discoverer, Mary Leakey, said in her original report published in National Geographic magazine, these footprints are exactly like modern human footprints. And uh, other scientists also agree. The paleontologist Tim White said, make no mistake about it, they're like anatomically modern human footprints, the same as you or I would make if we were walking on a beach.
Mm.
So now they didn't think that human beings made them. They just proposed, well, there must have been some kind of hominid living 3 or 4 million years ago that had feet exactly like modern human feet. Interesting idea, but no evidence for it. So uh, sometimes it pays to look at evidence from various points of view, and a more complete picture may emerge.
Do you think humanity is finally ready to accept a much older and more complex, complicated past, Michael?
Uh, some parts of it are.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in, in one sense, I think that humans have always been present. I don't think uh, we're accidental creatures in an accidental universe. I think the universe, the cosmos, has a purpose. It's an educational one, basically, to help us distinguish what characteristics and values we should be cultivating that would qualify us to exist on the level of pure consciousness. But and that is best achieved in the human form of life. You probably don't have among your subscribers many cats and dogs.
Well,
So
I don't think we do. Mind you, in today's world, you never know.
yeah,
Michael, I've got 1 minute left. What is your final message that you'd like to share with the X Zone Nation tonight?
well, if any of the X Zone members are in Europe, then next summer solstice time, June 14th through 21, I'll be at the Bosnian pyramid site discovered by Sam Osmanovic, and I'll be speaking there. So if anybody's in Europe or planning to go at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get down to that festival and lecture series, that would be great.
Michael, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. It's always a great pleasure speaking to you, sir. Thank you for the great work that you've done over the years. And I believe in Michael Cremo, and I've had the pleasure of reading your books. Please keep up the great work, Michael.
Okay, as long as I can.
All right, Michael. God bless you. Take care of yourself, and to you and your family, the very best of the Christmas season, and nothing but the best in 2026 for you.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas, Michael. That's it for now, Exonation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight. So until tomorrow night, remember, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
Families gather, voices sing of love and hope and cheer. From the northern lights